Hello, my name is Jeff. This is Castle Doodles, your 2A Self-Defense Law Network. If you see this person right here, Simon Schiffler, 33 of Williston, North Dakota. Seems like an alright dude, right? Doesn't seem like a crazed maniac from this Facebook picture. Let's see what he's accused of doing. He was crazed, said the driver caught in a deadly highway shooting in Fridley, Minnesota. This is what I'm going to get to. This is a... Well, let's tell the story and then I'll get into it. This was on the drive home in the afternoon. It was drive time. Three cars were stopped at a stoplight, and Simon's truck plowed into all three of them to the point where Simon was underneath the third guy. So they all came together. They all came together like an accordion, and they couldn't get out. Well, what happened was that Simon got out of the car and was just a nut job, totally irate, obviously on alcohol, according to other complainants. Took out a knife and started beating it against a window, telling the person to unseparate the car. And earlier before that, the girl in the first car got out of her car and was going to get the license plate number and get all the information, that kind of thing. And he grabbed her, pinned her against another car, and started trying to kiss her, basically sexually assaulting her. Now, another person came by, saw that this was happening, and pulled out a gun. Simon started going after him with the gun, flailing, shot him 3 times. The bystander went to one knee, unloaded his gun, put away his holster on one knee with his head down. This was a third-party self-defense scenario. I live in Minnesota, and I'm going to get into duty retreat again. And even if you're in a stand your ground state, this is a very important kind of stuff, because you could be someday going through a duty retreat state. There are trainers in this state that have a perverted view of what stand your ground duty retreat actually means. According to these trainers, and I've trained with one. He's actually fairly good. I just don't... He's teaching people weird stuff. And since they paid him, I didn't say anything in class. He's basically saying that this is not your fight, that you need to... you have a duty to retreat, which is totally false. He didn't show this particular circumstance, but what he'd do is he would show a picture with a bad guy pointing a gun at a clerk's head at like a convenience store. And he'd say, if you're standing in back somewhere, is this your fight? I think under the tactical doctrine, I think it is a good mindful exercise to see if you're going to get involved or not. I also have had other talks with people who that I teach, and one guy actually said that his trainer said that if you're at the Mall of America and you're on the 3rd level, but there was an active shooter down in, I don't know what it's called, Camp Snoopy, whatever, Nickelodeon, I don't remember what it's called now. It's a big amusement park where a bunch of children are. If there's an active shooter situation, are you allowed to put your handgun over the rail and shoot back, or shoot at the person? And the guy I was talking to, his trainer said, no, you have a duty to retreat during an active shooter scenario. Again, the trainer that I was at with a few weeks ago, his thing was a Walmart. I don't know why they always pick up an active shooter's scenario to do this, and I think there's better ways of going at it. And he was basically saying, if you were in a parking lot and you heard shooting coming from Walmart, you have a duty to retreat. No, you don't. I think you don't have a duty to retreat in this scenario. If you come to the aid, of a defenseless person who is in immediate threat of death or great bodily harm, you can defend them with deadly force. Now, here's the caveat to it. If the people that you are defending have the ability to retreat, you must convince them to retreat first before you can, use deadly force to help them out. And that's the biggest thing. And if you can get them to skedaddle out of the area, they were not in immediate threat of death or great bodily harm. But let's go back to the mall scenario. If an active shooter was going up to children and putting the gun up to their head, up to the child's head, and shooting them, and then going up to the next one and shooting them, and going to the next and shooting them, I know the practicalities of if you had a compact handgun, you had 17 rounds, and you were on the 3rd floor, and you were shooting down into that amusement park down there, it's not going to be very effective, but that one shot down there may stop the person for a little while. You may be able to save a couple lives. But the thing is, let's just say that there was 1,000 people down there, and you couldn't get a clear shot down there to be effective, where you became negligent in distributing the force. Well, then I can see where you shouldn't be shooting from that position anyway, because your bullets may be able to doing more harm than what the active shooter is doing. This is the perfect reason. The story is a perfect scenario why coming to the aid of people is noble. Now, this is what I classify as an unknown third-party defense. An unknown third-party defense is very dangerous because you don't know what the people will say. It's going to be much safer if you're defending a family member or people that you know, because you know a little bit about them. Now, let's just say that you stopped a husband and a wife from fighting, and the husband had her down on the ground beating her, and you brought the gun out and you said stop. He stopped and back up. The cops were called, and now the wife changed her story. It says, oh, I wasn't having any problem, just this guy with the gun was pointing it at my husband. That was the problem. Another classic thing is you're going around the corner, you're hearing a woman go, rape, rape, and you see 2 guys on top of her. You draw your weapon down and you say, stop, don't hurt her. And then later you found out it was 2 undercover cops busting her for selling drugs. Now in Minnesota, well, there's 2 different things. There's called alter ego and reasonable perception. Alter ego is that you take on that role of that girl down on the floor. She still must be innocence, eminence, proportionality, avoidance, and reasonableness. Well, she's not innocent because she's doing an illegal act. So, in those alter ego states, which Minnesota is one, you could actually be charged. All right? Reasonable perception states will say, well, you had a reasonable perception that what you were doing was lawful, and therefore we'll forgive it. Don't count on it, guys. Third-party self-defense scenarios, unknown third-party self-defense scenarios are dangerous when you don't have the complete picture. You really need to see the fight from beginning to the end. The perfect thing is this thing on the highway. There was no confusion of what was going on there. This was a guy with a 6-inch knife beating it against a window, trying to get at someone, sexually assaulting another woman, and when he confronted the guy to stop his aggression at low ready, he charged him. 3 shots. Died later. This Simon Matthew. So when you're having trainers that are giving wrong impressions of what duty to retreat is. Duty to retreat doesn't mean that you cannot defend a third party, but you have to make sure if they can retreat, you have to make sure that they do that or convince them to do that before you can act in deadly force. My name is Jeff. This is Castle Tilliger 2A Law Self-Defense Network. I hope this helped.